Okay, I wanted to take just a couple of minutes and go over essay number 6, which is the division or classification essay. And so, one of the ways that we learn things best is naturally dividing things into parts. It makes the knowledge manageable. Division and classification are both ways of framing a subject so we can study it better. So division begins with one thing and mentally takes it apart into pieces to help it be understood better. Classification begins with many things and puts them into categories so we can organize what we know about them. And our mind does this naturally in a lot of ways. So we see both everywhere we go. A university is divided into colleges. Chemistry divides and classifies so many physical things into fairly limited categories. Zoology divides and classifies. English divides and classifies text into genres. That makes them easier to study, looking at them as a whole. So if your subject is one that can be best understood by examining parts, you're writing a division paper. If your subject is best understood by placing the context of categories, then you're writing a classification paper. I wanted to show you a couple of ideas, and hopefully by this point you have read the essay What Are Friends For, which divides friends, a woman's friend groups, into like 7 or 8 different categories. They all play a particular purpose, but and her life would not be the same without them, but they're all different and unique and within their own categories. So let's look at a list of possible ideas for classification or division. I just wanted to explain a couple of them. And you don't have to choose something off this list. It's just to kind of give you an idea of what, of some things that would make a good classification division paper. So I wanted to start with like people at the gym. You all know those people. You've got those people that don't have any idea how to use any of the machines at the gym, and thank God they don't, because then we wouldn't have anything hilarious to watch videos of on Facebook. And then you have those people who semi know what they're doing, people that get help with trainers so that they understand more. And then you have those real Hulk guys and girls that are extreme gym users. They know how to use everything. They don't need any help. They grunt every time they lift, the max weight. And so, all those people play different roles at a gym. Boyfriend and girlfriend types, classifying possibly your own experiences with boys or girls into different categories.
Interruption. We need to go ahead and do the morning.
You could go with your own personal experience of the different types of boyfriends that or girlfriends that you've had, or you could just classify boyfriend and girlfriend types into, different categories, like a starter boyfriend, all the way up to a very meaningful relationship that you've had. Sports fans can be classified into different groups. You have, your fair weather fans who are only fans when, someone's winning, to your new college recruits that suddenly become JSU fans, or suddenly become Alabama fans, just because they're going to school there now, and you see them all dressed up at the football games. Have never been to a football game, obviously, in their life, but now they're diehard for whatever team that they're on. And then you have your ultimate fans who are, they tailgate, they drive hundreds of miles to see their team, they paint their bodies in all kinds of random colors with the mascot or whatever. So you have a range of really good categories there. Types of students, sorting kids into, you have kids that just show up and just kind of stroll through school, all the way up to your kids that study for 4 months for an upcoming test. Types of diets that can be personal to you. It can be things that you've tried or things that you've read about, all the way from, these trend diets all the way to the extreme diets, beauty routines, people that have the least maintenance beauty, swiping mascara, putting on a little bit of powder, barely brushing your hair, all the way to girls that get up, an hour before school, before anybody else, just so they'll have time to put on their full face. You can go the route of Winnick and do the friends, your own personal friends that you're dividing into categories, least to most important, or you can just do friends in general. How to study for a test, the methods for studying for a test, from just, barely glancing over the material and hoping for the best, all the way through cramming for weeks before a big test, making the flashcards. Types of athletes. There's such a range there that you could use, from your kids that, they have a lot of God-given talent but not a lot of work ethic, and they just kind of show up and think that things are supposed to happen, all the way to that kid who puts in the work every single day, preseason, postseason, working to become better, go into all the different camps, that kind of thing. Social media users, you've got people that, probably like your parents or even your grandparents nowadays, that are barely on Facebook, don't know how to use it right, how to use it correctly, all the way to people that are like social media zombies. They're on there all the time, posting on everybody's status, butting into everybody's business, and the different types of social media, the categories of social media you could also use. I mean, you have Facebook and now you have TikTok, and the big craze is TikTok. You have Instagram, Twitter. Types of pets. This shouldn't be like, oh, there are like 6 different types of dogs. This is more like, you want to classify maybe like the best types of pets all the way to the worst types of pets. Like, I can't imagine, and forgive me if I'm treading on anybody's toes, but I can't imagine that a snake as a pet has the same kind of warmth and fuzziness that you feel from a dog who sleeps with you in the bed. If any of you sleep with snakes, I apologize. How do you apologize from that? Sorry. Just because you say sorry, all the way to like sincere apologies, shopping behaviors, types of compliments, tourist types of teachers, types of classes. These are all just some ideas just to kind of get your creative minds kind of whirring on what would make a good classification or a division essay. I wanted to go over just one last thing, organization. How do you organize? How do you organize a classification or a division paper? And so it's relatively easy. You naturally are going to determine the parts or the categories. And what you're going to do to start your rough draft, the easiest way to do it is start with a plural noun sentence. Now, this is going to be very basic as a thesis, but it will help you develop and strengthen your own ideas, and you can always sub out the sentence for something much stronger. So there are 3 kinds of boyfriends, or sports can be divided into 5 parts, or basketball can be divided into 5 parts. Then you have a choice here about how to organize and arrange the order of the parts. Sometimes it makes sense to arrange them in logical or spatial order, top to bottom, left to right, inside to outside, or largest to smallest. However, you do have that order of importance too. You have least to most important, or least to greatest, or greatest to least, or in terms of value. The key is to find a sequence that you think is going to best maintain the interest of your readers. By the time you get to that final draft, that plural noun sentence that you created, you've absorbed it and you've replaced it with a more interesting opening paragraph. But it is still really a handy way to get going on your essay, just to help you in your mind keep everything structured.
Leah Talbert, if you're in the building, please report to the library.
After you've established these categories, you have to say something interesting, because here's the thing. If you just say you chose types of tourists, If you just established these categories and you just listed these types of tourists and you just listed something about them, what you're doing is you're forgetting that so what factor. It has to be a meaningful organization. Why did you choose the subject that you chose? Did you want to enlighten us? Did you want to make us laugh? Did you want us to elicit any other kind of emotion that you're trying to get us to go for? That is what's going to make this paper stand out from just a descriptive paper about 3 types or 4 types or 2 types of something. An ordinary paper. So it's got to have meaning. So that usually means full details describing, telling anecdotes or stories about them, explaining how it works, comparing it, contrasting it, discussing the causes and effects, defining it. So all those different types of forms that we've already used in our writing can play a role in making this paper meaningful. Okay, it's not just enough to divide and classify. Okay, you have to have that so what factor. So your prompt is going to ask you to think of 2 areas. Think of a group of people or things that you happen to know well. You can choose any of the categories that we discussed in our essay ideas, or you can kind of forge your own territory, classify them into categories that make sense, and then find that so what factor of why you're classifying them together. Is knowing the difference of the different types of boyfriends going to make you a better searcher for, the true type of boyfriend? Learning is the study, how to study the study habits. Is that going to make your audience think more about their own studying process and how that relates? Or you can divide. You can think of an object, an event, sport, idea that you could be better understood if you broke it down into logical parts. So that's division. The other one's classification. Hopefully you have a little bit of a better idea of what I'm asking you to do this time, and I look forward to seeing what you come up with. Don't hesitate to contact me, email or text, if you have any questions.